For today's artwork, you will need a piece of paper. It can be copy paper or cardstock paper, a pencil, a pen or Sharpie, color markers or color pencils or just crayons, and most importantly, a story idea. What's your story going to be about? Is it going to be about people or animals or something else? You decide. Here we go. We're going to take this piece of paper, which I'm using copy paper, and I do think that you might have better luck with a thicker paper, but copy paper will work also. You're going to take this paper and arrange it sideways. You're going to try and make 3 parts that are equal size. So these first 2 parts that I've folded over, they're going to automatically be the same size. It's this last part that I have to look at and say, okay, how do I make this and this the same size? So I'm looking for a good halfway point. And once I find it, I can go ahead and fold it. I always crease mine really nicely so that I have a nice line to see. Then I open it up, and this part of the paper I'm going to fold into that crease line. So I'm going to get right on top of that as well as I can. You might have an adult help you with this, or you can practice it a couple of times on a couple of pieces of paper until you can be a real professional at it, like me, because I practice it all the time because I'm constantly folding paper. So there I have my 3 parts, and we're telling a 6-panel story, or a 6-part story. So I've got 3 of them. Now I'm going to take that paper and I'm going to fold it in half, bringing those lines up to one another. And then I hold on to it and I fold it. So now that I'm done with that, I can unfold the paper and I'm going to turn it sideways, or you can work on it this direction or this direction. It doesn't really matter. I guess since we're doing this, we can do it this direction. The next thing we're going to do is to add what are called panels. A panel is just a square that's inside the boundaries of each of those borders that we just folded into the paper. So we make sure that the square that we're drawing is drawn very carefully and does not touch the border of the other one. So we're always adding a little bit of space between the line that we draw and the edge of the paper and the edge of each of the folds that we made. And you do that on all 6. And take your time and do a real good job. This again takes a little bit of practice. We want those panels to be as big as possible without touching each other. And that's important because what we're doing is we're making a 6-part story, and each one of these panels is going to contain a different part of the story. And we don't want to get confused with the other parts of the story. So that's why we're making sure that none of our borders touch each other, that there's always a little bit of space between each one. And that keeps each part of our story separate when a person goes to read our story. The next part is beginning our story. We will start with something that you write at the top of the panel. And I'm going to just come up with a quick little story that is my story. You will come up with your own story. So my person is saying, I wonder what I will do today? Question mark. After that's done, we call that first one a thought or a word balloon. So now that we've done the words, we put the balloon around the words. But we want to make sure that none of the word balloon touches any of the words. And then of course we have to have a little stem coming down from the word balloon. And later we'll put a drawing of our person there. Next up is what's called the thought cloud. And the thought cloud also starts with what the person is thinking this time. So I'm saying my person is thinking, I want to ride my bike. Get all our punctuation in there, make sure we're using capital letters at the beginning. I want to ride my bike. So now there's going to be a person here that we draw who's thinking that. This time I'm going to add a cloud around the words. And again, the cloud does not touch the words. For the stem of the cloud, we make little clouds coming off of the bigger cloud. And each one of these little clouds gets smaller and smaller until they go to the head of the person who is thinking. On our next one, we're exploring all the parts of these comic books, and we've explored two parts, the word balloon and the thought cloud. You could say we've explored a third part, which is the panel borders. Now we're going to do what's called a sound effect. And a sound effect can be what's known as an onomatopoeia, which is a word that when you say it is the sound that you say. For instance, we could do boom, pop, crack, splat, plop, boing, ding dong, all sorts of words. So I'm going to pick one, and I think I'm going to pick crash. And each one of these letters is a capital letter. And we usually write them in a special way. They might curve or wrap around something. And usually at the end, we put an exclamation point. If you want, you can also make them balloon letters, letters that have an inside and an outside, so they are a little bit larger. And I just go through and I add an extra line on each part of the letter. Some people refer to these as bubble letters or block letters. And then after I've done that, I'm going to put a zigzag line around it. And again, the zigzag line does not touch the letters. And it stays inside the border of the panel. I'm going to put a second zigzag line to make it even more special. And then some motion lines. Motion lines are just straight lines that point in a particular direction. Oh, I forgot my zigzag. So, there's my crash. Next up, I want to continue the story, but this time I'm going to have three different kinds of views of my story. The first one is going to be what's known as a close-up view. And you can add words and thoughts, word balloons or thought clouds, in this part as well. And my person is saying ouch. So I wrote the word, and then I put the word balloon around it, add the stem, and for this one, the person's head needs to be very large. It's the only thing I can see on this whole picture. And I need to have the person have something going on. So I guess their eye will be closed and their other eye will be open. And we'll put a zigzag line around that eye to show and connect that eye with what happened earlier. Next up, we have what's known as a middle shot. And in a middle shot, we can have just the head and the shoulders. So there's my person. Or maybe that's a person coming to help my person. And my person is on the ground. And this person is reaching out and saying, "Are you okay?" So if they're going to say, and they're going to speak first, they're going to be over here. Their words are going to be over here. They're asking a question, so that has a question mark. Put the word balloon around it. And the stem this time is pointing to this person. It's not coming out of their mouth. Their mouth is way down here. We're just pointing toward the person who is speaking. And then I'm going to draw my person on the ground. And again, we can only see the head and shoulders. And they might be reacting to their injury. Let's see, "Are you okay?" And my person on the ground says, "I think so." And we'll add a little dot, dot, dot. Maybe they're going to say something more. And then the person who has come on the scene says something like, "I can show you how to ride." And the other person will say, "Thanks." Now, there are two people going to be speaking on this one, and the first person I have to draw is the one who says, "I can show you how to ride," because they are on this side of the picture. The second person to speak is on the other side of the picture. And we're also going to get a little bit further away from the two people. So we had a close-up where we're real close to the person who was injured. We get a little bit further away, we can see that another person is going to help that person who has been injured, and now we're going to see the whole scene. So the person who says, "I can show you how to ride a bike," we're going to draw their whole body, all the way down to their feet. And we're going to do the same thing for the person who is learning to ride their bike. So I'm going to do a real quick drawing of a bike. And then I'm going to draw the person on the bike. The other person is holding on to the back of the bike to help them learn how to ride a bike. They've got their hands on the handlebars. I suppose they should have been wearing a helmet. Let's put a helmet on them. All right, so there's my comic strip. I have a close-up shot, a middle shot, and a faraway shot. And on the faraway shot, I can also involve the background to show where it is these two people are helping each other, learning to ride a bike here. And that's pretty common with a faraway shot, that we have a chance to add a background. All right, so give that a try and see what you can come up with. Your story doesn't have to be the same as mine. It can be a story about animals or birds or dogs running around, or it could be people doing something fun outside. Come up with your own story.